Life may always be hard, but woodworking doesn't always have to be. All right, so we're no professional woodworkers around here by any means, but we do know how to be efficient sometimes, especially when we learn new tricks, and this is one of those. This is not sponsored by Flex, nor by this bushing company, or by the wood company or anything. Just something that we learned, thought we'd pass on to you. Have you ever had to make repeatable cuts? It becomes kind of difficult, especially when you're doing rounded corners and shapes that may not be always symmetrical, so it's hard to just kind of dial up a table saw and your Forstner bit, or rounding corners with a jigsaw, whatever it may be, and get the identical pattern each time and every time. Well, there's an easier way to do that, especially, as I mentioned, when you're doing this, more than 1 or 2 times, when you're having to repeat it 4, 5, and 6 times. It's a lot better if you'll just make a jig. So in other words, kind of make it perfect as you can, or as perfect as it's really needed. This one doesn't have to be perfect at all, but it does need to be kind of within a ballpark, if you will. And basically what I've done here is I've cut a hole, but a little bit larger than the hole that I actually need in the following pieces. And what I'm going to do, instead of using a jigsaw or a table saw, I'm going to use my router, specifically the Flex router, but it could be any router. And I'm going to use an upcut bit. Now, that is not required either. You could use a downcut bit, an upcut bit, or just a regular cutting bit as well. But I would recommend an upcut bit, and it's going to do exactly what it says. So when you're cutting and the router is right side up, not under a table, it's actually going to, as it turns and cuts, it's going to raise that dust, raise that extraction up and out, or at least the idea is up and out. It's definitely going to raise it up. So as it cuts, the flutes on this is bringing the extraction, or bringing the particulate up, and then pulling it up and out of the way. A down cut bit would do the exact opposite, where it would actually push it down through. And so if you were cutting a full penetration every time, a down cut bit may be absolutely fine, and it would clear all that dust out from beneath. Anyway, so I've got my upcut bit, I've got a larger than needed template, and we'll get on size here in one moment. And then I've got a router bushing set. Now, I think I bought this one on Amazon, and this is a brass set, but you can buy these. I think I've seen the plastic ones at Home Depot and Lowe's. So there are some, maybe Dremel makes them. I can't remember who makes them, but I've seen some plastic ones. I like the brass set because they're going to last. They're going to be very true, as well as they're going to last, and not just nick and cut anytime you look at them wrong. And basically what we have here, we have an offset. So we have a hole right here that's going to be our guide, and in this case it's a 3/8, so the outside diameter here is 3/8 of an inch. Now my bit is only a 1/4 inch. So I think you can tell where we're getting at here. When the bit comes through here, there's going to be like an 1/8 inch offset. And by the way, there's some slop in here. It doesn't have to be exact at all. In fact, I could use one of those larger ones. You'll just have to know what your offset is, so that you know how big to make your jig or your template, how much bigger than the hole you actually need. So in the end, after I cut, there should be about an 1/8 inch offset between the edge of the cut and the main template. And what's going to happen here, you're going to actually install this bushing in the base of your router. And it's just going to have a collar here to screw it on. And so number one, you're going to need to make sure that you have the correct router base that will fit the bushings that you have, whether it's a Bosch style or, and you can just measure that. But I know, like this one here, that's kind of an additional base plate versus this one here. This is a lot larger hole right here, and the bushings will not fit in there, but the bushing does fit in this one. Now we need to get our base plate off of here. So I'll take my screwdriver, remove my base plate, and this is a centering jig that comes with the Flex, which is pretty cool. And you're going to put the thinner part here in the router. You don't have to cinch it down really tight, but get it snug. You can get that finger tight. Make sure your battery is out. And I can raise this up because we're going to take our plate here and slide this down, and this will help center it while we put our screws in. I'm always just going to finger tighten these screws and then back them off a touch, because you always have some slop in your plate here so that you can adjust it to make sure it's centered. Let me slide this cone out of the way. We'll raise it up there. I'll show you what I'm talking about. See how we have a little bit of slop there? That's so we can have some adjustment there to make sure we're centered. Raise that centering jig up. And then I'll snug down our screws. And now, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and take this off. And I'll install the bushing. Then I'll go ahead and put our upcut bit in. Be careful, don't cut yourself. And then be careful as you slide on your base, make sure it goes through the hole without nicking the side. And you can adjust your height as you need it. Now basically what you're going to have is you're going to have now your router that's following that path, and as you can see, cutting that 1/8 inch off the edge of that wood and following that path all the way around this. So you can see how that bushing's working, and you can see how that you need to cut your template opening larger than the opening that you want when you're finished. Now I'm going to start with a cut not very deep at all, and then I'll go in and make another cut. I may make 3 cuts to go all the way through on this. You can see with that upcut bit, we've actually brought that up, and now it's all packed here. Of course, we need to get it out of there. And now you can see my hole is complete, even down to the imperfections of the template. You can see my 1/8 inch offset of the hole there versus the template. Now we'll see if we can do a single pass. I wouldn't recommend this. Now, if I had dust extraction on, or we were actually passing through, it would be pulling that dust all out of there. But since I don't, it's getting clogged in there and actually affected my path. Now I can go in and clean that up. And there's 2 cuts within a couple of minutes. Now you can find all these things in various places. Bushing set, like I said, you can find those at Home Depot, at Lowe's, Menards, at your favorite big box store that may sell bushings. But like I said, usually those are plastic bushings and we like the brass ones. We found these on Amazon, I believe, and we'll put a link in the description, of course, if you want to buy these or something of the sort, as well as the upcut bit as well. As we mentioned with that, you could use a down cut bit, you could use a flush cut bit, whatever you want to use, obviously is going to maybe extract the dust in a different way, but still you want something that's going to cut as well as that's going to plunge as well. So anyway, let us know what you think. Also keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, would you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already? And by all means, if you hated our video, well, give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day. Keep smiling.